getting into the Dell Technologies Match Play Tournament. This is going to be a little bit different of a breakdown than I typically would do because it is a bracket format. With that, it's a very fun format to me. And I've been on the fence between if it's easy or more difficult. I can't really tell if we've gotten really lucky the last 2 years or if it's just the process paying off. Personally, I think there's a big edge in the sense that it is a bracket style format. There's a lot of game theory that goes into this, and then simply just being better than the field on average every week is really going to pay off more so this week than other weeks. Also with that, we have been able to predict the winner the last 2 years really by a simple process. And it's really just going through the bracket like you would a March Madness bracket and doing the same basic logical things that you would do to give yourself a successful bracket, to give yourself best chance to having a profitable bracket. That's the same stuff we can apply here. And so the last 2 years, obviously we have our Final Four, but we also have our top 8 plays that we kind of want to have. Whether that comes out of the same group, that's fine. And we'll be going through that. So last year, obviously, Scottie Scheffler was huge. What I did was literally just bet the top 8 players, which is a little bit different than what I typically would like to do. A lot of you guys know my strategy is to reduce the field to the top 5% of plays and then bet those out. Obviously, that's based on kind of the 9 to 5 model and also kind of what I see fit. This week, we're going to try to find the best 8 plays in terms of likelihood to advance. And that's really it. And it's kind of a simple process in that aspect because I took the time last night to go ahead and make the data that tells us exactly what our expectations should be for this week based off of how the players are projected to play. So I'm very excited about this video. It's a fun video to cover because like I said, you can really game the game, gain a big edge on the field as well. So it's a fun video. Let's go ahead and break it down. So it is going to be the Austin Country Club. It's a par 71. Yardage is about 7,108. The weather is not expected to be any issue at all just yet. Maybe Thursday, obviously storms, but really nothing too crazy. And guys, this is actually probably one of the most underrated courses on the PGA Tour. It's such a fun setup, and it's kind of unfortunate that we don't ever get to see it in a normal kind of tournament setting. I think the scores would be low, but it also could play as difficult as they would want it to. Just a fun kind of course in general. Okay. It's a fun tournament. Let's get into it. So what I did is I broke it down into regions, obviously Northwest, Southwest, Northeast, Southeast, okay? And then what I did was I just did groupings, okay? So this is going to be group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4, group 5. Okay, so what I want to concentrate is going to be kind of just selecting the winners out of each group. So let's go ahead and just look at group 1, okay? So I'm going to pull up this page. Then we're going to go by group 1. Okay, so looking at no shock there. Got Scottie Scheffler at about 35% likelihood to go ahead and advance. And what we're looking at, how we were able to determine this is pretty much just using the data that we have available for this week. So what was the data that we're looking at? Well, the key stats that I like to look at for a tournament like this are going to be general stats. We're looking at strokes gain differential, that effective scoring, that 9 to 5 only stat that typically is a measure of who's most likely to make the cut. We're looking at strokes gain tee to green, strokes gain total, all that kind of stuff, ball striking, total driving, just the general stats. So that is how we're going to be able to determine who are the best stat fits. Also for course history, we are specifically looking at event history here. Okay, a lot of people are going to be pulling in head-to-head records or match play records. That's fine, but at the same time, not everyone has the same sample, right? And then if we look at some of these players here that have local ties, like Scottie Scheffler, like Matt Kuchar, like Jordan Spieth, like Will Zalatoris, there are players that also get a bump as well. So some interesting aspects there as well. But looking at it, we can see obviously, Scottie Scheffler, great course history, so it's no shock that he's ranking out well. Victor Perez played in this tournament once, had a good result. We got Matt Kuchar, Seamus Power, Kevin Kisner. A lot of people really like Kevin Kisner this week. I will say I'm a little hands-offish with Kevin Kisner, but this is an example of, yes, we know Kevin Kisner is a good head-to-head player, right? His course history is going to tell us that as well, right? The issue with Kevin Kisner, I think, this week is going to be the fact that playing some of his worst golf ever. And so can he really turn it up? I think, who was it last year? Ian Poulter, potentially, where everyone was really excited for his kind of overall resume. And then he was just terrible because he was terrible the whole year. Now, that could have been potentially due to live and whatnot. Players more focused on that than the actual PGA Tour, maybe, but was terrible. Billy Horschel has good course history here. And so there's a lot of players that have good course history. That's obviously going into the 9 to 5 data. And if we look at the players that have the best recent form as well, we can see Jon Rahm, Scotty, Max Homa, Tony Finau, Terrell Hatton, really no shocks there, right? Like this list goes deep. These are the best players in the world. Makes a lot of sense. And specialist wise, just for what it's worth, let's pull it in. We have a lot of interesting data points, bunkers, obviously designers, but here are the best specialists in the field. Jon Rahm, Scottie Scheffler, Xander, Tony Finau, Max Homa, Patrick Cantlay, Terrell Hatton, Jordan Spieth. And so everyone kind of figured out really quickly that Terrell Hatton was kind of the standout value and that's still going to be true, I think. But now that you guys get the overall feel of this week, let's go ahead and just show you guys the breakdown of this tournament. So yes, we can see Scotty Scheffler is probably going to be the player we want to roll with in general, right? We can kind of see that 35% chance to advance. I think we just roll with that. We kind of just eat the chalk. So we're going to go through and make the bracket, and then we're going to come back and kind of figure out what our DFS plays were. Now, if we wanted to pivot to Tom Kim, we could potentially do that as well. Obviously, he's been playing not as well recently, but playing well. And then Alex Noren also does have pretty good course history here, as we saw. So let's just pull up those players real quick. And guys, this is the process. Like, it just is. Like, it might not be fast for all these ones. So I just kind of want to go through it just so you guys can see. Process of elimination, who's most likely to advance. So we can see, like, the only good thing that Alex Noren has going for him is going to be that course experience, that those good results there. Tom Kim does not have any. So to me, it is kind of a clear choice that we just go with Scotty Scheffler. We eat the chalk here. I don't think this is going to end up being Purdue. You know, you never know. It could end up being Kansas, though, where he loses in the next round. I doubt that. Just obviously first and a second here. He's playing some extremely good golf. I kind of expect him to win as well. And obviously he has all those ties to Texas as well. So from there, we move on into group 2. We got Sungjae Im, Tommy Fleetwood, JT Poston, Maverick McNeely. On paper, this is looking like, just with the eye test, it seems like it'd be a more difficult group, right? So let's go ahead and look at this group breakdown. So once again, this is going to be group 2. Okay, so we can see here, this is where, because we have kind of an even push here, this is kind of a 50-50 decision here. Sungjae Im or Tommy Fleetwood, who do we want to roll with, right? It's kind of a 50-50 decision. And this is where maybe we could default to course history. The thing with it is that we saw Scotty Scheffler's likelihood to advance was very strong. So more likely than not, Scotty Scheffler is already looking like a core play because we want to kind of, you know, scale it. Top 16, top 8, top 4. That's kind of my approach here. Okay, so already we can see that we probably want to be on Scotty Scheffler, just given the fact that this looks like it's very much Sungjae Im or Tommy Fleetwood. Now, don't get me wrong, JT Poston, Maverick McNeely, they could play well as well. Like, it is a WGC, it is a bracket style event. Like, there's random stuff that's going to happen, right? Just do it happen. No one was on Princeton, and if they were, it's stupid, right? Random stuff like that is just going to happen. Now, last year we got lucky with a lucky guess on Richard Bland because we were able to establish that that bracket was pretty much up in the air. And so if there are pivots like that we can make, then we'll make that. Also, guys, I want to point out just something real quick while I remember it. And this is something I can touch on either at the end of this video or in a separate video. But the 9-to-5 lineup builder has a huge tool advantage for you guys today. You can do player groups. So let's say when a lineup includes Scotty Scheffler, I want at least 0 of Sungjae Im. Maybe not Sungjae Im. You could do that. You could do, you know, both groups here. So we could do group 1 and group 2, where when a lineup includes Scotty Scheffler, we don't want any of Tom Kim, Alex Noren, and Davis Riley for sure. You know, I don't really mind doing, like, having one of these guys in here, Sungjae Im or Tommy Fleetwood. But at the same time, we could very well just limit this, right? It just makes sense to do that. So we can set up those rules. So let's just do that, for example. And so we got those rules in there. We click go. And so if we were to run this, and let's just say we want 30% of Scotty Scheffler or something. There we go, 32, whatever. Click generate. Then we scroll over, click on the lineups that have Scotty Scheffler here. We'll see that none of them would have one of those players associated with it, right? And so that's kind of a common theme, is that some people will not make optimal lineup decisions this week based off of the bracket. They'll kind of cap their upside. And a lot of people that probably give content are going to say that is the wrong way to go this week. And I'm not exactly going to say that. There are a lot of weeks in which, you know, having 5 out of 6 across the cut line can be profitable. And actually, if you plan for that, can be very profitable for the random weeks in which you get 6 for 6 across the cut line. And by that, I mean, if you pull from like 2 values, and let's say they have about a 50% chance to make the cut. If one of them or if both of them make the cut that week, you are sitting pretty good. You can kind of use that same logic this week. Like, let's just say, for instance, let's say this wasn't Scotty Scheffler. Let's say this was a terrible play. And obviously we'll get into this as the video goes on. But let's say this was a terrible play and this whole bracket group seemed like a push, right? Then there'd be a very high likelihood that either Sungjae Im or Tommy Fleetwood would be able to advance to the Sweet 16. I wouldn't mind a situation in which we have a decent amount of those two. Now let's pull up another example. Let's say that, I don't know, let's say this was Scotty Scheffler and Jon Rahm, for instance, or something right here. 2 players that more likely than not are going to be 2 locks. Obviously, Jon Rahm's over here, whatever. This is just an example. And as we get into this, I'm sure this will pop up. Let's say this was Scotty Scheffler and Jon Rahm. I would honestly be fine having both Scotty Scheffler and Jon Rahm in that scenario. Obviously, different names and salaries attached. I'd be fine having them in the same build, because if we thought they had a strong likelihood to not only win, but just advance to the Sweet 16, Elite 8, I'd be fine with that. I'd be fine with taking in those points. Like, you can kind of lock in points as well. So, yes, in GPPs, you want to try to get as many people to the Final Four as you can. But guys, it's, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's just not likely, right? Like if you get 3 out of 4, if you get the champions right, that's the biggest thing that you should be stressing. Getting the champion and the victory, the winner correct. That's the biggest stress. But getting back into this, right? Okay, so let's look at Sungjae and Tommy Fleetwood. We like those plays. Let's just compare those two. So right on paper, we can see very, very close here. We got Sungjae, who's 35th and 42nd, not really good stuff there, and Tommy Fleetwood, 35th, 5th, 24th, and 17th. Some people might default to Maverick McNeely just due to the fact that he advanced last year. I was just curious if he had any Texas ties. I knew he was a California guy. I just didn't know where he was currently living in Nevada. Okay, that just seems like something random to me. Obviously, he's not playing good golf, playing some of the worst golf right now in the field. JT Polzin would probably be a better play than him. So it does make sense to just kind of roll potentially with Tommy Fleetwood. I might give him the slight advantage. We do see Sungjae being a good specialist. The thing with it is, Sungjae typically isn't going to shoot himself out of it. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't seem to be a gamer. I want to chase that upside from Tommy Fleetwood pretty much. He's playing great golf. We look at his last 3 starts, 3rd, 27th, 61st, 20th, not great there, but if you go back further, 5th, some good stuff there for Tommy Fleetwood. So let's just go ahead and select him. Although once again, on paper, it does seem like we are just going to roll with Scottie Scheffler or Tommy Fleetwood. Let's just confirm that. And the way I'm going to confirm that, put both these in there, sort by Sweet 16 likelihood, and boom, we can kind of see Scottie Scheffler and then Sungjae and then Tommy Fleetwood about pushes there. So we're going to go ahead and put in Scottie Scheffler to advance. So now we move down into Group 3 and Group 4. So let's start with Group 3. All right, so looking at it, we actually see that Jason Day has a slight edge over Collin Morikawa and Victor Perez. We can see that this bracket group is already very tight, though. The likelihood of these players advancing is very small, and it should essentially be a push, right? We can see that. And so I'm actually curious right out the bat. Let's see the likelihood from a player from Group 4 advancing. Do we have a big edge? We do. Victor Hovland has a significant edge, really, over Siwoo Kim, Chris Kirk, but it's really Matt Kuchar that struggled, which I find very interesting because we did see that course history with Matt Kuchar. It was very good course history. So I probably will select Victor Hovland. An upset pick could be Matt Kuchar just continuing that good form I shouldn't say form, continuing those good results at that tournament. So hopefully this doesn't matter, this decision, but we can already see we're probably just picking Scottie Scheffler to move on, just given the fact that we don't have any real locks other than him to advance in the first round, to advance out of the group stage. So once again, looking at the Group 3, let's just pull it up. All right, so we can see all of these players here, right? Collin Morikawa had a really good start here last year. He has been extremely hit or miss. The question is, really, will that continue? Will he continue to be hit or miss? Because if that does, I could see kind of just defaulting to someone like Jason Day, who's just been playing some extremely great golf. Each golf shot, seemed to be in command. Will he advance out of the group stage? Who knows, right? Hasn't really done all too well at this tournament in the past, but yeah, think of it, the last 2 times he played this tournament wasn't exactly playing how he is now, so take it with a grain of salt there because he's playing great. 15th best specialist, 12th stat fit, 12th in recent form rank, and we could default to that, but we also have Victor Perez, who's also playing some great golf as well, which might surprise some people. And so for value, DFS wise, we could just be playing Victor Perez, just given the fact that, well, looking at it, guys, it's basically a push. Like Victor Perez does rank out pretty well here. And so if we are making like a DraftKings build, we probably want to roll with Scotty, and then maybe we try to get lucky with a very low price Victor Perez, an underpriced Victor Perez for that matter. He's been playing some pretty good golf, played well at this tournament in the past. Now, would I say that I would much rather play Jason Day than Victor Perez? Yes, obviously, but we can make some educated decisions and kind of say, I'm fine with punting for a value play, DraftKings wise. If we're making a bracket, we're probably just rolling with Jason Day or Collin Morikawa. I'll just roll with the slight favorite, which is Jason Day. So now we move on into this group again, Group 4. And I apologize if this is going to be a long video. It's fun to break down. It just is. So looking at it right now, we got Hovland, Siwoo, Chris Kirk, Matt Kuchar. I want to see this on paper as well. All right, so we can see here, some pretty good results for a lot of these players. I would say, I think we can pass up on Chris Kirk. I'm fine with that. But we can see Victor Hovland really coming in pretty spectacular. Top 12 specialist, stat rank, and in recent form rank. Course history is a little bit lackluster, but we have seen him get a little bit better in each start, 18th and 42nd last year. The issue is Matt Kuchar has played extremely well here. And the issue is that this should be a good course for Matt Kuchar as well. Sorry, I think I said Kuchar had course ties. He doesn't. He's just played well at this course. I think I said that earlier, and the upside weeks have randomly been there for him, and some of his better tournaments, I believe, are in Texas. I actually want to see that. 37th best specialist. I'm actually curious. Let's look at that. So yeah, he's one of the better ones in the field on Texas track. Interesting. Or in this group. And just looking at this, it does seem like it should be much more of a push. Now, I probably will try to just go to Victor Hovland. Just playing extremely well. Tough to imagine him giving holes away. The issue that I have with Victor Hovland is it doesn't seem like he has the mental fortitude to win big events. And I would say the mental fortitude to play well in an event like this is kind of the same as winning a big event. You have to have that Mamba mentality, if you will. So I could see, you know, for fun of a bracket, maybe potentially picking an upset here, but this is tough because we have Victor Perez as a value, and we also have Victor Hovland as kind of the play we want to roll with here. Curious, we're not like, if Matt Kuchar was insane value, we could roll with him. I kind of say we just play Victor Hovland here, pick him, and then we're stuck. Obviously, DraftKings wise, we went Victor Perez here, but this does seem to be much more like a 50-50. So we're just like rolling with Scottie Scheffler to advance to the Final Four. Because if we pull in that whole region now in here, let's just sort by Sweet 16 odds. Scottie Scheffler is above all of them. Elite 8 odds. Scottie Scheffler above all of them. So I like his chances the most. Okay. And then we do see Victor Hovland popping up there. He is a good play, so it does make sense. Let's just go with Victor Hovland as well. But to me, the only like core play we have out of this group, just going by it, does seem to be Scotty. Now let's go ahead and move down into the Southwest region. So Southwest region, group 5, the top group. We got Max Homa coming in as the heavy favorite. And I don't really think we need to spend that much time on it. It does kind of seem like he should be the heavy favorite. A lot of people are going to see Kevin Kisner and be worried about it. I'm just not, okay? It seems to be the easiest group to make it out of. So we get by a lot of measures, a player that's probably the 4th best in the world right now in Max Homa, going against players that have kind of just been terrible recently, except for Justin Suh. But at the same time, I don't think we need to roll with Justin Suh. Okay, Hideki's been struggling lately, although last start 5th, kind of random. We never exactly know where Hideki's at. He just hasn't played all too well in an event like this. So to bet on him doesn't really make sense. Now, the issue that we have with Max Homa is that he's extremely high priced. And so if we're choosing between Scottie Scheffler or Max Homa in terms of like a DraftKings build, it makes more sense to roll with Scottie Scheffler. We can see Kevin Kisner has really dominated events like this, but I do want to make it clear he has been playing just terribly lately. Just no reason to end up on him, I don't think. And so that's why he's not ranking out well. Even with that strong course history, he's a bad play. Now, if you guys want to roll with Kevin Kisner, say, I like the course history, I'm going to roll with him. I'm fine with that. I just can't see myself doing that. So we're going to roll with Max Homa here. Now we roll on into group 6. So once again, we can kind of see it seems to be a battle between Jordan, Shane Lowry, and Taylor Montgomery. Now, Taylor Montgomery's coming in off of that victory. So my question would be, how much can we trust him really coming in off of that victory? Does seem like a guy that'd be content to be, you know, having that victory. And we kind of know it's interesting. All these bad plays here actually have some good results at the tournament. Mackenzie Hughes here, like who would have saw that coming, right? Strange there. So that's interesting. I would say like there is the potential for this to be a spot in which we could go with an upset with our bracket. And maybe not our bracket, but our DFS builds. Like value-wise, Mackenzie Hughes makes sense. Good course history, terrible form. We can see that, okay? But if you want to chase the course history in this sense, I wouldn't hate it. Definitely not a lock and load. Far from that. What you would hope for is that he gets a tie with like Shane or Jordan and then beats Taylor Montgomery and maybe wins a tiebreak. Could hope for something like that. I would say Jordan is the play we should go with, but once again, Jordan is high priced. DraftKings wise, it's tough. I will say I think we just roll with Jordan bracket wise. DFS build wise, if you run to roll with Mackenzie Hughes, I'd be fine with that. So I actually will toss in Mackenzie Hughes and Victor Perez into a lineup right now because once again, I don't mind punting. If we get lucky with one of these two, I'm fine with it, okay? Because I feel comfortable that Scottie Scheffler is kind of the clear-cut payout play. Obviously, as we continue this video, hopefully we can find better plays than that. So let's get into this. Group 7 and Group 6, most likely to advance to the Elite 8 and Sweet 16. Who do we got? We got Jordan Spieth. Interesting. And if we look at it, it's going to be Jordan and Shane Lowry there. Why? Because, well, sorry, I got the wrong. It shouldn't be 7. It should be 5. Apologies. Okay, it is Jordan then Max Homa, which to me is interesting. If you're worried at all about Kevin Kisner, right, potentially upsetting Max Homa, I would say Max Homa has the mental fortitude to be able to beat a terribly playing Kevin Kisner at this moment. Definitely doesn't feel like a lock and load here, but I do think we kind of default to Jordan here, bracket-wise, but it doesn't feel great. And what's interesting here is that we're not seeing too many big upsets just yet. I feel like when we did this last year, like Richard Bland, we kind of already knew that we were going to pick him. So let's see. This one could get interesting. Let's take a peek at this one. This is Group 7. Yep. Thought it would be interesting. It is. Look at this. And so this is kind of what I was saying earlier. It's that we can see this is basically a push. have no big edges here at all in terms of who's going to advance. Okay. Like any four of them could advance. And this is a scenario. I'm actually curious. What are the prices of Seamus Power and Adam Hadwin? Oh, Adam Hadwin's actually higher priced. I guess I wouldn't hate Seamus Power, although, man, it's going to be tough to end up on him. But we can see even push here. Sam Burns, played well at the tournament. He always plays well at last year. That was great. Adam Scott's definitely been hit or miss. A little bit inconsistent recently. Bracket wise, I think this is where we could get unique here. DFS wise, I don't hate the idea of going with Seamus Power. Obviously, Adam Hadwin just had 2 bad holes last tournament, and that's kind of the thing about match play tournaments is that you can give away 2 holes, and sure, it's going to hurt you, but it might not hurt you as much as it typically would, right? I think I'm going to go power. Oh, he's the I did not see that coming. Do I go with the upset just for the fun with Adam Hadwin? I don't know. I didn't realize Seamus Power would be the top or second best seed in that group. And now we get into Patrick Cantlay, Brian Harman, Cage Lee, and Nick Taylor. I'm assuming we're going to be on Patrick Cantlay. Yeah, so it's not as big of an edge as I thought it would be. And actually, this could be a spot in which maybe we get a little bit of Nick Taylor exposure. And I'm curious as to his price. Let's look at this, the breakdown of it. Okay, yes. Nick Taylor makes sense in terms of value. I would say he's actually probably my favorite value that we have thus far. Because I would say price point wise, he's probably the best value that we have in terms of likelihood to advance, not only out of their group stage. I mean, Patrick Cantlay is going to be the biggest hindrance here. I don't think Patrick Cantlay is really going to slip up, and Brian Harman's a grinder as well. So there is that worry. I would say Nick Taylor's a grinder as well, but he to me is much more appealing than like Hadwin or one of those guys. So I'm going to go Cantlay here because he does feel like the best play, but in terms of DraftKings, where we're trying to get lucky, could go Nick Taylor. We could go Patrick Cantlay as well. And that's where some people might say that is stupid. That's a terrible idea, Eric. You should never suggest that. And obviously in GPPs, we don't want to do that because we are definitely limiting the amount of points that we're going to get. I'm just admitting that chances are we're not going to get, 6 for 6 correct, really get into even the Sweet 16. It would be great if we did. It's just extremely unlikely. And so this is kind of my way of kind of hopefully ensuring that we get at least one of these two to the Sweet 16. Could do that. I'm not saying I'm going to. I just wanted to use that as an example of what I was trying to suggest earlier. And once again, why would we do something like this? Well, if we pull in Group 7 and Group 8, we'll see Patrick Cantlay is the heavy favorite to advance out of the Sweet 16. And then from there, it's kind of a push. Like, sure, Sam Burns, Adam Scott, Seamus Power, and then Nick Taylor, but the separation between Nick Taylor is not too huge. I don't mind it. And I would say we don't know who's going to come out of Group 7. We strongly know that's most likely going to be Patrick Cantlay. And so we are definitely picking him to go to the Sweet 16. But heck, another example would be if Nick Taylor was in Group 7 instead of, let's say, Adam Hadwin, you would just be loading up on Nick Taylor in that sense, because in a bracket in which it's an even push, it just makes sense to go with the lowest price player. But yes, I think our 2 favorites to advance to the Sweet 16 are going to be Sky Scheffler and Patrick Cantlay so far. So outright wise, they're probably the only 2 that I like so far outright wise as well. Sky Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay. I haven't even looked at the odds yet. All right, Scotty 8-1 and Patrick Cantlay 18-1. It's pretty good. We'll take those. All right, and so now let's just do both regions here, Southwest and Northwest. I just want to see who's most likely to advance, and Jordan Spieth popping up in there. That's interesting. I'm actually curious as to why that is. That is extremely interesting. Let's go and look at Group 6 again. Oh yeah, because he was just kind of the massive favorite out of that group. It makes sense. So maybe we add Jordan to the betting card as well. But yes, it does seem like Jordan, Cantlay, Scotty, those are kind of our favorites out of here. So bracket wise, I think we go with Jordan. We already went with Jordan, actually. We're going with Cantlay here. And so this is where it gets interesting kind of bracket wise and even DFS wise. Let's look at the pricing. Jordan and Cantlay are practically the same. Personally, I think I like Cantlay a little bit more. I think he is the easiest to predict to be able to advance, but I don't hate Jordan, obviously. I think Jordan makes for a logical outright. Let's see his odds. We can get Jordan at 25-1. And given his matchups, he's actually pulling in as the most likely to advance to Elite 8 slightly. I mean, it's this tight push, right? And guys, this is broken down literally by kind of how I broke it down, how I displayed this video, is that likely to advance in round 1. Take those odds and then use it for Sweet 16. Take those odds, use it for Elite 8. And that's how I'm coming up with these odds. We're basing it based off of their likelihood to advance each round. So I'm going to go Cantlay there for the bracket. Let's go ahead and move on into the Northeast bracket. All right, so looking at the Northeast bracket, Group 9. And so what I find interesting here is that Jon Rahm is kind of clearly a great play, but the issue with Jon Rahm this week is that Keith Mitchell and Ricky Fowler are also pretty strong plays. So it's not as much of a lock and load for him to advance as a lot of people would have thought. And so let's see why. Well, Ricky doesn't have any course experience here over the last 4 years. He sucked. Okay. And we can see Jon Rahm has had tremendous course history, 9th, 5th, 24th, 52nd. Okay. I had to take out the withdrawal from Jon Rahm in the last one because he was playing well, just got sick. So we'll see that. That's a factor as well. The issue with Ricky and Keith Mitchell is that they're coming in at high price point. And so like DFS wise, we can't really end up on them really. I mean, Ricky could, but we can see kind of why Jon Rahm isn't as much of a favorite to advance as probably some of the other top seeds that we already mentioned, because Ricky and Keith Mitchell are good picks. They just are. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and pick Jon Rahm to advance. But in terms of building a lineup, like we feel much more comfortable with Scotty, with Cantley, and for that matter, Jordan Spieth instead of Jon Rahm, because Jon Rahm has a much more difficult round one pairing. So now we get into group 10. This is very shocking to me. Cameron Young has an insane edge over Corey Connors, Seb Straka, and Davis Thompson. Okay. Such a big edge to advance out of the group stage. And I keep saying round one, group stage, same thing. Do we really need to look at this? I mean, we will. Like, I don't want to write these guys off, but Cameron Young played kind of well last year. I think he was paired up with Jon Rahm. And so he had a shot to advance, obviously, but maybe it was Rory, but obviously the likelihood of him advancing out of that group was not that likely. So I don't know if we can really knock him too much for that 35th place finish last year. He did get a W. Now, Corey Connors played some extremely good golf at this course last year. It is a shorter track. They do rank out basically as the same specialist. So to me, it does seem like it's either Cameron Young or Corey Connors. And I don't mind Corey Connors. Obviously terrible in his last start, but besides that, a very consistent golfer. Obviously, if you're playing consistent shot to shot, that's what you need to do well in a kind of grinded out event. Blow up holes can happen as long as you're just not giving away holes. Now, the thing with Cameron Young is he's very interesting because he is someone that goes for it, okay? It wouldn't be shocking if he wins. It wouldn't be shocking if he does kind of just, I guess I was going to say it wouldn't be shocking if he doesn't advance. It would be shocking to me because he does go for it. He might give up a hole or two, but blow-up holes don't really matter. He's going to be aggressive and try to win holes. So I like Cameron Young, has one of the best likelihoods to advance, and he is someone price point-wise, 9.2, I do think we could try to end up on. We do see the big price discrepancy here, though, okay? It's kind of crazy here. And so it's kind of interesting game theory-wise, though. Two value plays right here between Davis Thompson and Seb Straka. We haven't had that many groups that have two values there, right? So potential game theory would say that, and it's not this, but we have a 50% chance that we have someone at 6.2 or 6.1. I guess it'd be 33% chance. 33% chance at 6.2 or 6.1 are going to advance, if we were to combine these two. It's not terrible in terms of lineup construction. Now, I would say we're just going with Cameron Young, but just an interesting game theory thought there. And so lineup-wise, we're getting tight here, okay? I do feel pretty good about Cameron Young there, but it's getting tight. Let's go ahead and put Cameron Young in there. Cameron Young versus Jon Rahm. Interesting matchup. We'll continue on. And honestly, I'm really shocked that we're this deep into the video and we haven't got like any clear-cut values. Like Nick Taylor was all right, but nothing like that was a lock and load. And now we got Tony Finau really popping up. And I'm actually curious as to what Adrian's price is this week, because to me, that could be an edge that we get there. Interesting. Tony, I wouldn't say he struggled at this event by any means, but he hasn't dominated yet. And you would think that he would. But this is a good spot for Adrian. He's been playing some good golf. There's no denying that. Now, some of these starts have come from the DP Tour, but value price point wise, I feel like we're not going to get a better value play on paper given his bracket group. And we can kind of see that's why he's kind of popping up here as the next best compared to Tony Finau. That is interesting. And I'm curious, what is Tony's potential matchup in 12 out of group 12? Like how do these two compare against group 12? So, I mean, not terrible, actually. We have Ryan Fox popping up there. That's surprising. He's been playing well on the DP Tour, though, so not too surprising. Oh, that's tough. I was hoping we'd have like a lock and load out of that group. It does make sense to go with Adrian here, though. Damn. Okay. I think we got to do it. Bracket wise, too. Let's get unique with it. Let's have fun. And this is the educated upset that we're making here, right? We know Tony's the favorite, but we can see on paper should be much tighter than it is. I'm curious as to why Ryan Fox is popping up over Will Zalatoris, so let's go and pull that up. What I find super interesting about this group here is that it's a bunch of golfers that rarely are making mistakes, like especially Harris English and Andrew Putnam. They're typically players that are putting the ball where they need to. At the same time, they're not really players that anyone seems to fear. Now, I do want to mention Will Zalatoris because if you guys remember last year's tournament, I think he was like a top 4 play for me that week, but he had so many clutch. It was like one of the clutchest performance of the whole season, if not the most clutch performance of the whole season that Will Zalatoris had. I think it was Friday evening and Saturday. like the full day Saturday, because he shouldn't have won those matches, and he did. He had some clutch up and downs, he had some clutch putts, but now he's coming into this event not really playing great golf. Okay, we see some top 10s there, 4th, 11th, and 1st, but besides that, really inconsistent golf. And so it does make sense why someone like Ryan Fox, who has been playing some good golf, consistently as well, is popping up there over someone like Will Zalatoris. And if we use his DP Tour starts, is coming in as one of the better stat rank plays as well. And this is frustrating here, guys. I really wish that we were getting a better price point on Ryan Fox. But this, to me, says that not only are we getting a good value play in Ryan Fox, kind of price point wise, but between Group 11 and Group 12, we are potentially getting a very cheap Sweet 16 play. So it does seem like we kind of have to prioritize our pick. So I'm probably going with Ryan Fox out of both of these to advance, but that's where we can kind of get unique with our build. If we want to go with Adrian to advance there, I'd be fine with that. We can see pretty tight stuff there. But like logically speaking, just considering the price points, this is probably our best chance to get a Sweet 16 upside play. And then let's look at Cameron Young and Jon Rahm. So it would most likely be Cameron Young that we were pulling from, especially when we're looking at those two. So I'd sort by 10 and 9. And so we could see, because Jon Rahm has a much more difficult round one pairing with Ricky Fowler and Keith Mitchell, that we can see Cameron Young is actually more likely to get out of the Sweet 16 because, well, Cameron Young has a higher likelihood to advance in the group stage. Now, if it was just primarily Cameron Young versus Jon Rahm, yes, we'd be favoring Jon Rahm, right? It's just, we are trying to make the best percent decisions we can make based off of who's most likely to make it out of the group stage. So to me, it does make sense just to go with Cameron Young. Easier path to get there. And that's kind of the thing here, guys, that we can see Jon Rahm or Cameron Young, they have kind of a, I don't want to say easy path, but like the chances are that they could be facing someone that is a more easy matchup on paper than really any other, 2 seed or what would this be, 4 seed in the bracket. And so we'd kind of logically have to pick Cameron Young to advance. So now let's go ahead and get into that Southeast bracket. So just looking at that bracket on paper, it's it's looking like one where the favorites between Xander, Hatton, and Rory are going to be probably ones that we're rolling with. And then this is where we could potentially find our value here in this group, because obviously Matt Fitzpatrick been struggling a little bit recently. So we'll check that out. And just for fun, let's start with the bottom bracket, Group 16. So Rory is definitely going to be the favorite out of here. We know that. Okay, Keegan Bradley has just really struggled in these events. He's just not clutch. It's just not who he is. And so we also have Denny McCarthy there as well. And then Scott Stallings. Like, none of these golfers have been playing great golf or consistent golf. What we need to really know with this group is that Rory went to Augusta and I guess was doing some practice rounds, and he's been testing out some new equipment. Seems to have a driver now that he likes. It seems to be something with the shaft that he was messing with. Likes the shaft or the driver. I don't know. I've seen rumors out there. Apparently he's hitting the golf ball well. Now, if Rory doesn't make it through, let's say he struggles, he's been a little bit inconsistent, and maybe the changes in his gear are going to help or hurt. We don't really know, but to me, the fact that he went and did a practice round in Augusta suggests that I might be looking ahead. So like, we could potentially go Scott Stallings here, but really because of that, I think we just roll with Rory here. Like, Scott Stallings has shown random upside. If I'm not picking Rory, I would just rather pay down for a cheap value play, hoping that they make it out of the round, or hopefully that they win a matchup. And obviously going against Keegan, well, that seems to be something that can happen because Keegan chokes. So yes, on paper, Rory is definitely the best pick, and on paper, Scott Stallings is not, but I say we roll with Rory here in terms of the bracket. But because of that, like, we're going to see Tyrrell Hatton's just kind of the top-notch play this week. And given his pricing, like, he's going to be an outright for everyone, as he should be. So looking at, we can see Tyrrell Hatton heavily favorited. And I just want to see what Ben Griffin's pricing is, because he could be someone that we actually maybe defer to in lineups that we're not going with Hatton. So yeah, we can just see Tyrrell Hatton's definitely kind of just the class of the field pick here. But Ben Griffin is at a good price point. Okay, so I would say it'd be a mistake not to go in on Tyrrell Hatton this week, but maybe he just struggles. Maybe he only wins one match, loses another, and ties. Or maybe he ties twice, and Ben Griffin beats Lucas Herbert and Russell Henley and ties Tyrrell Hatton. Maybe something like that weird happens. Ben Griffin has been playing some good enough golf, and he's at such a cheap price point that I do think we need to consider him as a value. Obviously, if we're paying up for the studs, we should be trying to find some value that we can roll with. So it makes sense that if we are using the lineup builder here, that, we go into settings here, we run a player group. Let's say when a lineup includes Tyrrell Hatton, do not have Ben Griffin. right? One of the lineup includes Ben Griffin, do not have Terrell Hatton. I think that'd be a worthwhile group to go out of your way to suggest. But as it sits right now, I think Terrell Hatton is just going to be a strong price point play at 9K. Now we get into this bracket here. This is going to be very interesting. So group 14, Mingwoo Lee is actually the favorite to advance here. And we saw kind of the grinded out nature, the I want to beat you kind of mentality that Mingwoo Lee had just 2 events ago. But we also have JJ Spawn at a cheap price point, and he's someone that has won in Texas. Now he hasn't been playing great recently, but we can see it has been really just one bad round besides the API. That's just naturally a tougher scoring track. One bad round, really every tournament that's cost him. So, he could definitely lose a match, and I kind of expect him to lose a match. It's just, can he get lucky to advance? Maybe win 2 matches, maybe have a 3-way tie in advance. Maybe. Okay. Obviously, the 6K minimum price just seems too cheap. It's not too long ago that we saw 12th, 5th, 15th, 15th. Like, it's not too long ago that we saw that from him. So I would say that's still there. Maybe he's a little bit banged up. We don't really have that news, but we do know that Matt Fitzpatrick has been struggling. To me, this group is on paper the most difficult to predict who's going to come out of it. Now, I know Mingwoo Lee is really popping up there, and that's because he played well at this tournament last year. Based off of the small sample size that we have on him, he's actually a pretty good play. And so given his price tag of 7.6, I'm perfectly fine ending up on him. And that's more or less what it is. I'm fine ending up on him. But given this grouping that we have, it does seem to me that's much more of a push than it really suggests on paper. And so because of that, we're probably just picking whoever this winner is to advance. And so this one's kind of simple to me. It's going to be looking at Xander Schauffele. Okay, kind of easy plug and play there, I would say. But let's just take a look at it. Xander has one of the highest likelihoods to advance in round 1. I think he has the highest, and then Hatton has like the second most highest. So it just makes sense to roll with those guys. And you know what I find really funny about this year is that because the live golfers aren't here, there's not that many like free wins out there, because a lot of those live golfers, for some reason, they're kind of the nature of playing in the no-cut events, getting like free world golf ranking points. And even last year, it was really bigger last year because I think mentally a lot of those guys were looking ahead because they were playing terribly. But because none of those golfers are here, we're actually getting golfers that are coming in as kind of strong plays. So it doesn't really seem like we have any, I would say, lock and loads to make it to the Sweet 16, where last year it seemed like that. So on paper, it's actually more difficult to predict this year than last year, which is kind of interesting to me because I saw some takes out there on Twitter that would actually kind of suggest the opposite. Oh, it's unfortunate the live guys aren't here. We're starting to feel it here. I'm like, I don't think so. I think we're actually we're getting a better field now because of that. There's less free squares out there because there's Ian Poulter. There's just players out there where we knew to avoid. It was easy to tell. Where now some of these bad golfers, world rankings wise, are coming in pretty good form. But looking at guys, we can see Xander, really only one bad start, but still won a match. Okay. And so that's something I haven't really talked about too much, is you still want to be winning match. You want to win holes and whatnot. And he's done that. And so for the most part, Xander Schauffele on paper is going to be kind of one of the best plays. He's a very consistent golfer as well, never really shooting himself out of it, always keeping himself into contention. Cool, calm, and collect. Now, Tom Hoagie did go to college in Texas. I think he went to TCU, so he does have a little bit of ties there as well. But to me, it's simple. We are going to pick Xander there. And then, just given the path, we can see Xander does have a pretty good path to make it out of the Sweet 16 and advance. And to me, I think it's going to be Xander. And so if we just look at all the groups, all the groups out of that section, we can see Xander and Hatton have a great likelihood to advance, but we also have Mingwoo Lee. So this is where I think roster construction gets very unique in terms of cash and GPPs. And I want to use NBAs as an example. In NBA DFS, a lot of the times we'll see that you can actually enter your cash build into a GPP and have the same, or if not better, likelihood of cashing. And why is that? Because people go much more risk reward based in GPPs. Okay, they're trying to chase that upside. And so that is where, I would say if you are someone that's using a lineup builder, yes, set those rules. That is why this is here. Set those rules. Okay. But if you're someone that's building by hand, chase the points, chase the floor, right? Maximize the floor that you can have. Do not chase the ceiling. Okay. This is something that 3 years ago, people weren't making optimal builds. They're making dumb lineup decisions, okay? They're really hurting themselves that way. And it seems like the last 2 years, people have went a little bit too extreme, okay? And even in GPPs, make logical decisions there. Don't just set a setting just to chase the most likely or the best lineup path, I guess. Because the chances of it's like any March Madness bracket. There's going to be random upsets. No one had Princeton. There's going to be those teams, right? And there's going to be random upsets. 2 1 seeds. Okay, Purdue, Kansas. That's just going to happen, and we can't really predict that. We just want to be chasing the favorable odds that we get. And so this is where I want to pull this up. You guys will see I have 1, 2, 3, 4 players, actually 5 players from this side of the bracket in my build. Now, I will admit I didn't naturally try to do that, okay? But what am I doing here? None of them are going to face off against each other in round 1. I would say that is king. You definitely need to do that. And the only 2 that are matching up against each other in round 2 are Xander and Mingwoo Lee. But if we can get one of these 3 right here, Xander, Mingwoo Lee, and Hatton, to not only go to the Final Four, but maybe even make the championship, they're going to be playing in round 3. They're going to get those 3rd place points. That is huge. You want to have players continuing to play. That is the strategy here. Okay, so I don't care that I have 3 people from this bracket. I want to chase the points, and to me, and the data says this as well, if we pull it up, we are talking to the top 3 players that had the best likelihood to advance in Rome, right? And I'm not saying they all will. Heck, they probably won't, right? I mentioned we've had success at this tournament the past 2 years due to have bad luck. And I will say Will Zalatoris clutching up last year was extreme luck, with the putter especially. But you guys get what I'm going for here. And actually, shoot, all of them are from this bracket. Maybe going 6 from this side is a little bit too much. That could very well be. Don't get me wrong there. That very well could be the wrong choice here. I didn't even notice that. Thought Adrian would be on the other side. But like I don't think it's the wrong choice. Like we're just trying to get a player to the championship. We're trying to continue to maximize our points. And so heck, if we get lucky here with one of these 2, maybe advancing to face Cameron Young or something like that, that's huge. And so that's my way of saying, if you guys feel like in this situation in which it's Terrell Hatton, maybe Xander, I don't mind playing both of them. Like it's fine. You're maximizing your floor. And because people will directly make bad builds to try to maximize their ceiling, you can gain an edge on them, especially in cash and even in GPPs, by building a lineup that has a safe floor. And I don't want to use the word safe this week, but you guys get what I'm saying. So just to recap, guys, kind of the outright strategy that I've done the last 2 years in order to hit an outright is I want to be targeting the top 8 plays. Typically speaking, it's going to be the players that I have going to Elite 8, who have the highest likelihood to make it to Elite 8. But to me, I see it as Scotty, 1. Then we could go Jordan and Cantlay. That's 3 players now. Cameron Young, we know, 4. And then Xander and Hatton. We got 6 there, okay? To me, I don't mind taking a flyer on Ryan Fox then or Mingwoo Lee, okay? Obviously, we're trying to get lucky there. And I would say, like, Scotty Scheffler, to me, really does have the best chance to advance to the Sweet 16. I just couldn't fit him into this build. And then same thing with like Jordan and Cantlay. Like I really like Cantlay's chance to advance to the Sweet 16 as well. I just couldn't fit him into this build. Literally couldn't. Okay, I guess I could go up from Xander to Cantlay. That is a pivot that I will do. Okay, so that's not a bad pivot. We're really banking on Hatton. Now we're making much more of a GPP build, right? But it's very much like March Madness, where we're trying to live to die another day. As long as you didn't have Purdue as your champion, or even in your championship, you are fine, even if you had them in the Final Four after day 1. Same thing with Kansas. As long as your teams are still alive to go to the Final Four, as long as you have 2 teams still alive to go to the Final Four, you most likely have a chance to make money, to hit the outright winner. So it's a very interesting week. And just a reminder, if you guys want access to any of these tools, $10 a month, best value in PGA DFS. Like you can literally, if you are max entering this week, use that lineup builder tool. You are going to gain an edge that way. I'm saying if you're someone that's playing, let's say 20 entry max or single entry max contest, be more logical, build a floor. Now, if you are doing someone that's max entering 150 lineups or something like that, then yes, the lineup builder is what you need to do, because you do have to be more unique as well. But thanks for watching, guys. That's all I have for you guys for this video. Let's have a good tournament. I will try to come out with the Corrales video as well. Okay, want to make that clear. We'll see. Lots of stuff going on. All right, thanks for watching. Let's have it. As always, let's keep cashing.